Folks, welcome back to the Tailored Tax Show, the podcast that helps highly paid, highly taxed, high profile, high net worth, and ultra high net worth taxpayers save a bunch on taxes legally. I'm Terrence Taylor, the co founder of Tailored Tax, and I am an enrolled agent. This is my partner, Big Al Darnell Jr. What's up, Big Al?
Going on, everybody? What's up, Terrence? How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Tell us how you feel about your moms, man.
Hey, man, I love my mama, man. I'm Big
I know
Al, and I love my mama.
I know you do. I know you do, player. All right. So, folks, today we are doing an episode on insurance and using it strategically to complement and supplement your health insurance. And when I say insurance, using life insurance to complement your health insurance. So, Big Al, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart as I've been talking to quite a few folks about using life insurance policies strategically and specifically index universal life insurance policies and how they can use that to help them do a bunch of things. So let's just look at the fact that there are three things that a index universal life policy can have as what are known as riders, so additional parts of the policy can be added to cover some health related challenges and really help out in a pinch. So the first one is something known as long-term care rider. Second one is a chronic illness rider. And the third one is a critical illness rider. And Big Al, I would love for us to just chop it up
Yeah,
on each of these, right? So can talk a little bit about what it is and then just share some thoughts that come to mind. How does that
cool.
sound? All right,
100%.
let's
Sounds
start with the
great.
first one, chronic illness riders. So chronic illness, folks, through an index universal life policy would give you access to a portion of the death benefit if the policy holder is diagnosed with a chronic illness that limits their ability to do 2 out of 6 life activities. So you can look at things like if you're the insured and you're unable to eat on your own or bathe on your own or dress on your own, this rider would kick in and it would then provide you access to money from the policy, right? And this money is being taken from the death benefit, so it's being upfronted. So there is that trade off. But the great thing is when you need this type of care and you incur these types of expenses, perhaps to get a caregiver to help you, then this rider can help, right? So you can then cover the expenses related to your chronic illness. So assisted living, medical treatments, any type of in-home care that you might need, and this just helps to reduce any burden that you would feel on your financial savings, for example. The other benefit, Big Al, to this particular rider is you get this money tax-free most of the
Period.
time, right? As
Period.
long as, yeah, as long as you meet the criteria that the IRS sets, and this is an overview, so we're not going to go in depth into the criteria, but if anyone is interested, please get in touch with either Big Al at tailortax.ai or Terrence, Terrence, at tailortax.ai.
Well,
And
another
then
thing
last,
to mention,
yeah, go for it.
uh,
Yeah.
another thing to mention about the chronic illness is that, so as you know, we write off medical expenses a couple of different ways, but if you're just writing it off on your tax return, it's on Schedule A, but there's a 7.5% floor, which
Yes.
hardly anybody overcomes unless there's a huge medical event that happens in their life that year.
So true. So
So,
true.
what the beautiful thing about using insurance for in a tax preferred way, when you have a rider for chronic illness, you got to think about what are some chronic illnesses. Some of the chronic illnesses are asthma. Some of the chronic illnesses are diabetes, high blood pressure, are even mood disorders. Wait a minute, I looked it up. There was
Yeah.
migraines and mood disorders. So what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't even have to be one of the larger cardiovascular or AIDS or something of that nature that in order to qualify for this
Yeah.
rider, it could be some of these other ones that a lot of people have. I've got asthma. Excuse me. I've got asthma.
Shoot.
So
Mhm.
so excuse me. So being able to
Shoot.
have a tax-free way to pay
Hmm.
for these things, because it might not allow you to write it off on your taxes, is a huge, huge benefit. So I would definitely opt for those that have this potential to get
Yeah.
this chronic illness rider on, in their insurance.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Big Al. You really brought it home because now folks know the types of things that are covered. And
Yep.
the last thing to add with the chronic illness rider is it basically you have maximum flexibility in how you use the money. So once
Mm-hmm.
you've met the criteria to receive the payout, you can use the money as you and your family see fit. Big Al, you talked about some bigger illnesses, so that takes us to the second thing that normally an index universal life policy would have to help supplement health insurance, and that's the critical illness rider. So
Yeah.
the critical illness rider would pay out a portion of the death benefit again, folks, if the insured is diagnosed with a serious illness, such as heart attack, stroke, cancer, kidney failure, or major organ transplant, right?
Yeah.
So what are the benefits of this? Again, in that moment where the family and the insured is going through the very difficult emotional toll of having being diagnosed, the insured being diagnosed with a critical illness, oftentimes the expenses that are related to these illnesses is very burdensome on the family, right? In fact, Big Al, we know that the biggest cause of bankruptcy in America are medical expenses that people didn't have the money to pay for. So
Yeah.
critical illness as a cover and as a benefit, it's amazing in that sense that the family then gets funds immediately to cover high cost medical bills, to pay for ongoing treatments or any other living expenses. And they can do all of this without having to dip into the savings of the individual or the family members. Again, you get tax-free access to the funds as long as you basically follow the IRS guidelines. Last but not least, Big Al, this ability to really provide money when the family needs it is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's some considerations that folks should think about with any of these riders, but especially with this one. So there are limits on the illness type, right? So the policy will specify what is considered to be a critical illness. So you would have to make sure that you're clear on that and to also make sure that you understand the terms that need to be sort of satisfied for you to get this money. And the impact on the death benefit is always something, that trade-off that we talked about in the first one as well. So you're basically taking some of the death benefit and paying it today. And then last but not least, IULs, when you add these riders, it does come at a cost. So we believe it's really important for you to weigh the pros and the cons. All right, Big Guy, what do you want to add to this?
Well, yeah, with just pretty much the same thing of what you said when it comes to critical illness. The reason we're doing all of this is for our families. And
Yeah,
if you're diagnosed with a critical illness, it's easy to think that, woe is me, I have a lot on my plate. I'm being burdened with this illness, and you are. I'm not trying to take away from that. However, imagine what those that love you are going through as well. And to add on top of that, them scrounging at pennies, asking friends for money, working extra jobs, so on and so forth, just to help ease the pain, um, and provide extra help. This is That's why this is such a good option to put on, because oftentimes if you are diagnosed with a critical illness, not chronic illness, but the critical illness, depending on the stage that it's in, you might not even go work anymore.
yeah,
So, so now there's even more of a financial burden on the household at large that your kids will have to undergo, as well as your spouse if you have a spouse or kids. But yeah, so I think it's a great thing, especially from the aspect of it being tax free, and that extra money in the household isn't going to increase your marginal tax bracket either. So
yeah, cool. And finally, folks, long-term care or LTC riders. So when you add this to your life policies, such as an index universal life policy, it allows you to access again some of the death benefit to cover the cost of long-term care, right? And typically you would need you typically you can access this if you need assistance with at least 2 of 6 activities related to daily living, and or if the insured has some type of severe cognitive impairment like Alzheimer's, right? And Big Al, let's look at the benefits and some of the considerations folks should have in mind when it comes to supplementing their health insurance with a long-term care rider through their life insurance. So the
Hmm.
first one is you could buy a policy to provide long-term care insurance, but those policies tend to be quite expensive.
Yeah.
And, you know, it also the flexibility tends to be limited. Whereas in an IUL, Index Universal Life, once the long-term care riders conditions have been met and the funds have been approved, again, you have a lot of flexibility in terms of how you use the funds. So you can use the funds for long-term care services. You can use the fund for in-home care. You can use the funds for nursing facilities. You can use it for assisted living. So a lot more flexibility. Tax-free benefits also, because once you qualify and you meet the IRS guidelines for this particular benefit, you get those funds tax-free. And very importantly, folks, because again, medical bills are the main reason why Americans and American families go bankrupt. When you have access to the funds from the long-term care rider, it allows you to keep the savings of the family and funds that the family needs for day-to-day living for those things. Big Al, what are some of the considerations folks should be thinking about? Well, if you are in a position where you need this, the death benefit is going to be reduced because basically you're getting like an advance on the death benefit, right? There's a cost, of course, to adding this rider. So the premium for your life insurance policy is going to be higher. And then last but not least, there might be some restrictions on the maximum amount that can be accessed, whether on a monthly basis or total benefits. So it would be really important to look at the policy and make sure you're comfortable with what the considerations are. All right, Big Al, what would you like to add?
Well, I'll tell you this. The beautiful thing about a long-term care rider is it covers a lot of things that traditional health insurance doesn't cover. Things like having a home health care worker or a long-term care facility or a nursing home. I've got a lot of friends that are considering, and we've actually had a lot of clients talking about, hey, let's talk about the money I'm going to have to pay to put my parent in a nursing home and how we can work that into our tax plan and our tax strategy.
Yeah,
By the way, we can help you provide, we can provide for you a custom tax strategy specifically customized to your current situation. So just hit us up if you need one. But we talk about these things all the time, but it's a huge benefit, which is definitely worth the cost when it's time to need it, or when it's time that you need it to help pay for those things without having to use after tax dollars to do it. So
yeah,
it'll definitely, and it's a huge consideration when we talk about estate planning and where taxes are concerned, because that takes up a large portion of your monthly living expenses, whether or not you need a home health care worker or a nursing home or things of that nature. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
hey, thanks so much, Big Al. Hey, folks, that's what we have time for on this particular episode. And just to also highlight that if you want more information on how to use life insurance to strategically supplement your health insurance, visit the Tailored Insurance Guide. So that's Taylord, and then insurance and then guide. You can find it on the Chat GPT chat store, right? And that would help you to answer any questions that you may have around any of these things that we've discussed. And also feel free to check out the tailored,
Tax
what
strategies
is
GPT.
it? I'm like searching.
Yeah.
Check out Tax Strategies GPT. And I like how Big Al had energy behind that, right? Check out Tax Strategy with GPT, and
Indeed.
you could also find that on the on the OpenAI's
Platform.
chat store,
Yeah.
like GPT store. That's what I was going for, GPT store.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Big Al. So, folks, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.